All right, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you folks are joining us from today. My name is Vignesh Ganeshan, and I'm one of the core organizers of this event. And I'd like to begin you all by welcoming you to this huge virtual event on the Microsoft Cloud Security Stack. I understand it has been a busy week for all of you, with a lot of work, a lot of deadlines, family commitments, so on and so forth. Life has never been the same ever since we've been with the pandemic. But thank you so much for still taking the time out and joining us today for this big event. I'm not going to take too much of time. I'm just here to give you a lay of the land of how we are planning to do this event today, and then I'll hand it over to the other speakers. Okay. So this is sort of a punchline which I'd like to begin with, which I'd like to start for today's session, right? So we are living in an era where data and information has become the lifeblood of digital transformation, right? And there is no denying in that. But they also increasingly attract cyber criminal activity. And the conventional security tools can't help to fight the increasing threat landscape, and we need modern tools to defend ourselves. That is what the Cloud Security Summit is all about, because today we are all gathered here to understand, what do we have from a cloud security standpoint, right? So what are the different native tools which Microsoft has to offer from a cloud security standpoint, and how are they going to help to defend this, always evolving threat landscape? We are going to talk about the tools from a Microsoft 365 security standpoint, be it Azure Security, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, right? We're going to understand what are the modern tools, what are the new capabilities, how do they work, so on and so forth. It's going to be a lot of fun, right? So please, 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 I would need your 100% commitment for this event today. So what do we have to offer from the India Cloud Security Summit? So as you know, it's a day full of learning on Microsoft Cloud Security offerings. So it is a 13-hour non-stop virtual event, right? So we have three tracks running in parallel. So the first track is going to be your Microsoft 365 or Office 365 security. Next, we have a track completely dedicated on Azure security. The third track is going to be a mix of your Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and modern desktop, right? So based upon whatever job profile you belong to, based upon whatever technical stack you belong to, please make sure that you join the appropriate track and you can attend all the sessions. So all the sessions are going to be deep dive with loads of demo. And from a speaker standpoint, I made sure that we have got the best speakers in the world. So we have Microsoft MVPs, speakers from Microsoft product team and sales team, industry leaders. People have been in the cybersecurity world for quite some time. So guess what? You're in the right hands today. So there's going to be loads of fun and loads of learning. So Q&As, yes. So whatever question and answers you have, please go ahead and ask that. And last but not least, we have a special keynote from the Microsoft leadership team also. So this is really, really important. So please, please pay attention to the session guidelines. So each and every single session has its own team meeting URL. Okay. So if you go to the event website, if you see the session topic, you will be seeing a Teams logo there. Just click on that logo to join the session. It's as simple as that. No rocket science here. Just click on this link and you're in. So each and every single session has its own team meeting URL. Okay. So please, please, please keep yourself muted throughout the course of the session. I understand that we are all not working from a professional environment. We are not in our offices within a confined professional space wherein people have this ethics, right? We are all working from home, and there could be a lot happening in the background, things which are out of your control, right? So the only thing which I could ask for you folks is please keep yourself muted so that knowingly or even unknowingly you're not disturbing the session. Okay, so we'll be taking questions towards the end. So there will be a dedicated Q&A time given to the audiences to ask questions. So please utilize that time to ask the questions. Sometimes it so happens that during the course of the session, when the presenter is doing a demo or he's talking about a concept, right, and you want to ask a question right away, you can just put that in the chat so that the speaker can go back at the end of the session. He can pick those questions and he can start, we can start discussing about that. Okay, so the key that you need to understand here is, since each and every session has its own team meeting URL, the moment a session ends, the session is going to end, right? So unless and until you have a very specific question to stay back and ask, do not spend your time too much there, because if the session is over, because parallelly the next session also will be starting the following session, right? So once you're done with this session, go back to the meeting agenda, look for the link in the next session on the event agenda, just click on that and join. Okay, because it's not going to be like it's a single meeting URL, speakers keep coming one after other. That's not the way we want to do it. There are certain reasons why we have planned it that way. So once the session is done, it's closed, period. You go back to the agenda, then you look for the next session link, you click on that and join. Okay, and all the sessions will be starting on the exact same time mentioned on the agenda. Okay, that is really a good side about having each session with its own meeting URL. So do not spend too much of time asking questions. You can later reach out to the speakers on LinkedIn or to their email and ask a detailed question, and you can get your doubts clarified. But today is all about learning. Okay, I'd like to take a moment to thank all our sponsors, because without our sponsors, an event of this scale wouldn't have really been possible. So these are our sponsors for our event today. So I'd really like to take a moment to thank them. So from an event team standpoint, since this has been one of the biggest event that we have ever done from the Microsoft 365 Power Platform and Cloud Security User Group, we had a lot of people who had come in and supported in making, in bringing this event to where it is today. So these are all our organizers and volunteers. So big shout out to them, because without them, trust me guys, it has been at least 3 months of burning the midnight oil to get this event to where it is today. It was not that easy. It was just this core team who was sitting and getting all this done. So I really want to take a moment to give a big shout out to all these folks. So these are some other user groups who are supporting us. So you could see the Microsoft Azure user group in Bangalore and Chennai, the Microsoft 365 user group in UK. There are a lot of other user groups also who have been doing a tremendous job in supporting us in getting this event to where it is today. So for the first ever time, so we decided that we want to, tie up with a NGO. So if you go to our event website, you will see the details of this NGO. So at closely around 10:20 a.m. after the core keynote is over, I'm going to bring in Monica, who's a young girl who has been running this NGO, and she's going to talk. And we really want to hear from her. It's been quite inspiring talking to her. And we really want to make sure that she comes on board and she talks about all the great work that she's been doing. But as attendees, speakers, organizers, whomever has joined this event today, please try to contribute whatever you can. Okay. These days, maybe something which you might spend every day to commute to office, it could be 50 rupees or 100 rupees or whatever. Please try to go and contribute that money, because that small amount could make a big difference for somebody out there whom you don't even know. So please try to do whatever you can. So with that, our core keynote speakers today is going to be, so first we have Prashant Singh, who's the cybersecurity tech specialist lead for Microsoft India. Then we also have Deepak Rajendran, who's the community program manager from Microsoft. And we also reached out to Yuri, who's the principal program manager from Microsoft Security. And even though he couldn't join in person, he was kind enough to share a meeting recording. He just recorded his session and he has sent it to us, which I'll be playing later. So Deepak is not keeping well. So due to his health issues, he couldn't join today, but I'm pretty sure his blessing stays with us for this entire event. And we also have some exciting prizes that we want to give away, but the criteria for winning this prize, what it takes, so on and so forth, I'll be talking towards the end of this keynote after every speaker has done his part. So please make sure that you stay tuned. I mean, these are really great goodies, guys. Trust me, it's something which is worth 15,000. So you really don't want to miss this. So with that, let me go ahead and play the video recording which Yuri has shared with me.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the In the Cloud Security Summit. I'm very pleased to be here today as your speaker and talking about a very important subject. My name is Yuri Diogenes. I'm a principal program manager for Microsoft Azure Security Center and Azure Defender. And in today's topic, I want to talk about the importance of threat detections built for cloud workloads. This is a very important subject nowadays. But before diving into this, I want to bring awareness about something that is also truly important, which is secure hygiene. And we start always talking about secure hygiene as your number one priority. And the reason for that is because threat actors are constantly utilizing known vulnerabilities, misconfigurations to be able to get into your system. One thing that we noticed during the beginning of the pandemic in 2020 is that threat actors were leveraging current infrastructure that were dormant for some time, and they were monitoring current things that were happening across the globe. When the pandemic hit, they start to see an opportunity to build exploit kit and start new campaigns that were leveraging that subject. As you can see on this diagram that we released at the Microsoft Defense Digital Report in September 2020, we noticed this uptick in March 2020, exactly when the world was thinking about what this pandemic was. Threat actors were creating crafted emails, spear phishing emails, to be able to establish the initial foothold into customers' environment. And the reason for that is because they were leveraging something that is very common, social engineering. As much as you have secure controls in place, different types of program software and policies in place, at the end of the day, the end user has the capability to click on that link. That's why it's so important that you have a very strong security awareness training in place to avoid this type of scenario as well. Now, during this time, we noticed that these threat actors were not really doing something extremely sophisticated. They were basically exploiting misconfiguration on the system. And if you look to the news, the main point is misconfiguration. And that's because when customers are in this journey to the cloud, they really do not pay too much attention on the amount of workloads that they are migrating to the cloud, the different threat vectors that each one of those workloads has, and they start to using old methods to protect current workloads, which is really not applicable. That's point number one. Point number two, cloud by nature is very agile. So different teams will start to provision in new resources. If you don't have visibility across all your workloads, chances are you will not even know that there is a new workload active in place. How do you manage the secure hygiene of that new workload? So that's an important point. And this is something that we've seen this warning across different venues. Even the Cyber Security Infrastructure Security Agency in the United States released this report in January 2021 talking about this. And I'm going to highlight this main paragraph. Threat actors are using phishing and other vectors to exploit poor cyber hygiene practice within victims' cloud services configuration. So again, the first thing you need to do is the homework to ensure that you have strong secure hygiene. That's number one. And when you go to this direction, you are doing your proactive work. You are ensuring that you have enough controls in place to even reduce the likelihood that a threat actor will be able to exploit a known vulnerability. Now, you need to incorporate some very important principles. When we're talking about those principles, we are talking about things like zero trust principles, which are around verify explicitly, least privilege, and assume breach. When we talk about verify, we are talking about always verify. It doesn't really matter if the user is authenticated already on his computer. If he is accessing a resource, you need to authenticate again. If the user is traveling to a different location, you may have a different policy for when the user is located in a different country, for example, because the chances to be exploited from his mobile device or his laptop in a different location is higher. So you want to ensure that you have location-based policies in place. So you always have to trust by verify. You always have to ensure that you have authentication that takes in consideration the scenario, not only username and password. That's really an old approach. You need to move forward and have a more dynamic approach for that. Always leveraging the concept of least privilege, of course. This is very important, but we are going one level above the normal least privilege. We are talking about ensure that users are not able to access resources when it's not really necessary, or resources are not available when users really don't need. One classic example is machines that you're provisioning and you widely open for management on the internet via port 22 for Linux machines or via 3389 for Windows machines. Why leaving a machine widely open on the internet from those ports? And when I say widely open is because the number one attack in infrastructure as a service VMs is really brute force attack. When you don't have visibility about who is trying to attack your environment, you really don't know that a brute force attack is happening on the RDP level, for example, remote desktop. And the question is, first, why that machine is widely available for everyone at any time, and why not use the concept of least privilege? In other words, just allow access when it is necessary. Not just enough access, but also just in time access, which means make that machine available to be accessible only when users really need, which means that they needed to request access, establish a timeline, and then access that machine. That's very, very important. They need that. You need to incorporate this. The other thing is assume breach. That's another important principle that you must be aware. You cannot think that you will never be compromised, because what happens is if you don't have a plan to respond to an incident, the damage will be much higher. So by using the concept of assuming breach, what you're saying is, look, we may get compromised, but we are going to respond fast. We are going to identify, to detect, and take an action as quick as possible because we have a plan. We have threat detections in place for each workload. And as soon as we receive an alert, we have a plan to respond and to remediate that threat, to avoid the threat, to do more damage. Because if you are able to identify a threat actor right in the beginning of his attack, for example, when he is doing the initial reconnaissance or when he is trying to do any sort of discovery on the network, chances are that no damage was really done on the network yet. So you're going to be able to identify the attacker and take an action to expel that attacker or to at least isolate the environment to not cause more damage. So it's very important to have a plan in place, but you only have a plan if you use the concept of assume breach. In other words, we may get compromised, but we're going to have a response in place. We're going to have detections, and we are going to act quickly to contain that threat. Very important. Now, we need to look at this in a holistic manner, which means that to enhance the security posture, we need to invest in three major areas: protection, detection, and response. This is really what secure posture means. The proactive work that you do to improve your secure hygiene, the reactive work that you do to detect threats, and the response. Ideally, we want to reduce the time between the detection and the response. The problem is that majority of the time, companies, they are not investing too much in protection, so now they have to play catch up with detection and response. So you need to ensure that you have equally distribution of resources across those three major pillars. You have to do your homework from the protection perspective, but also detection and response. So that's the secure posture. And when we say threat detection is built for cloud workloads, what we are really talking about is the attackers, they are not really looking only to attack a VM anymore. They are looking for cloud workloads. How can I go after a cloud workload and obtain the information that I need? Look at this number. Cybersecurity, the number of files exposed on a misconfigured server's storage and cloud service has risen to 2.3 billion. And this is a new article from 2021. So that's a very alarming situation because you don't have visibility and you don't have threat detection that were built for those scenarios. Each cloud workload has its own threat vector. You need to understand how threat actors are trying to hack into those workloads. And you need to have threat detection that is able to identify those scenarios, okay? One of the example is the crypto mining attack hit by Kubeflow. We identified this. We have threat detection for that using Azure Defender for Kubernetes. And for that reason, we ensure that our threat detection is based on different phases of the cyber kill chain. We want to ensure first that each workload has its own threat detections that were built by security researchers that were looking to specific scenarios for each workload, and that the threat detection is built thinking of the timeline of the attack. The ideal scenario is that you are able to see attackers right in the beginning of the campaign, for example, the target and attack phase of the attack. Or you can also have threat detections on the installation and exploitation on post-breach. Anyway, you need to have threat detection built specifically for the workload, and that those threat detections are able to identify each phase of the attack. That will give you a chance to have different levels of response that are based on the phase in which the threat actor is acting at that point on when you see the alert. So this is the entire scope of threat detections that Azure Defender has. As you can see, the threat detections are not only for IIS VMs, but for PaaS as well. As a matter of fact, most of the threat detections are for PaaS because PaaS are really the future for many cloud workloads, and each one of those PaaS services has its own threat vectors, and different attackers will try to exploit those cloud workloads, PaaS workloads. So Azure Defender has different plans that covers different PaaS services recently, including the Azure Defender for Resource Manager and Azure Defender for DNS. So this is the two powerful threat detections that we will look directly into the Azure Resource Manager layer and trigger alerts that are specific for that scenario. Same thing for Azure for DNS. So with that, I want to ensure that you have some time to reflect about the importance of threat detections built for workloads. You can start this journey by enable Azure Security Center for free. Is a completely free solution that will give you the visibility across different workloads. You're going to receive secure recommendations, and you're going to have a secure score in which you are going to work all your way to 100%, which is the ideal secure score, which means you address all the security recommendations that are possible at that point. And then you'll be able to upgrade to Azure Defender and do a trial for 30 days. Give it a try. We have a series of articles that were released recently that allows you to test it out, the solution, and you have 30 days to decide if you want to keep it or not. But it's important for you to have a proof of concept for each one of those plans and then go after and see which ones are important for your environment. Thank you very much for your time. Here are some links that you can visit, and I hope you enjoy the event. Hello, everyone.
All right, folks. So I believe that was some wonderful insight and a great session from Yuri. With that, let me hand it over to Prashant. So Prashant, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Vignesh. Uh, can folks confirm that are you able to hear me properly?
Yep, you're good to go, Prashant. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I really thank it's a really humbling experience for everybody of you to be able to join over a weekend, be part of this shared learning, and really thanks for the event organizer to bring in industry and Microsoft SME together as part of the learning experience. I'm Prashant. I lead the cybersecurity tech SME team as part of Microsoft India. And today, in the next 20-25 minutes, I'll try to sum up the entire Microsoft cybersecurity strategy, which is powered by the cloud. It's definitely can be challenging putting everything, every perspective of the way we have thought through cybersecurity in a short span of time. So I'll be discussing a lot of approaches, strategies. To please bear with me. Let me get started. Um, I think we all understand the challenges, and I'm not here to dwell about all of these things. But yes, we definitely see with the rise of the cloud, identity-centric attacks have increased. The attack pattern as well, very recently the SolarWinds attack, we can see the complexity of attacks scale from on-premise to cloud, and there's no really static pattern. Attackers can come from anywhere, go anywhere. And even our detections can be at a particular stage in the attack chain. Remote working has brought in new set of challenges. Information, yes, at some point of time, it was part of our data center, but now it has gone out and it is, spread out all across. So that's the key. And the biggest challenge we are trying to address is the fragmentation of so many security solutions and trying to find and bring togetherness. The challenge itself today, as you find in enterprises, is not about having the best solution. I think every solution in the industry is great, but having the right skills to be able to sum up what these solutions in togetherness are saying is a big challenge. And that's why we as Microsoft want to ensure we're able to reflect that more integrated security view while we have a lot to offer in the cybersecurity portfolio. With that, let me sum up the key thematics, the way we look at the overall security strategy. Zero trust pillar is really around the identity centric zero trust vision, coupled with the overall unified endpoint management solutions. Defending against modern threats is the collection of all things security, which are working together to defend against the latest and the greatest threats. uh, Talking about hybrid cloud strategy, customers have both Azure and third-party clouds, and how we are bringing together the overall security manageability to the entire cloud plane, and even the hybrid cloud data center, including on-premise as a overall strategy. How we are looking at it, and how we are protecting the data overall, understanding the data, understanding the risk, finding data sensitivity, managing compliance. There are so many charters if you look at the protect and govern sensitive data and managing compliance risks. In togetherness, these are 40 plus different security solutions which you see, and they can have different names. I mentioned here typically the purpose of these solutions, but from Microsoft standpoint, these are not just solutions. We look at these integrated experiences, which is more important. Every pillar, every solution is tightly covered, integrated. So zero trust is not in isolation. It leans onto the modern security threats for device risks. It is leaning on to secure hybrid multi-cloud infrastructure to create a reduced experience in case there is a risk in the session. It is connected to the data governance pillar to ensure data can be accessed only from the right device and the right conditions. So if you look at all of these strategies, they are not in isolation. The power of togetherness is the messaging which we want to take to the customers. In that, we also have the XDR strategy, which is the Microsoft XDR strategy, which is bringing together a unified security operations and manageability plane to a lot of solutions in togetherness. So that's and it encompassing a lot of these things, and we'll discuss about that in the subsequent discussion. And within that, we also have the SIEM, SOAR, and security analytics strategy. So literally, whether it's point solutions, whether look at integrated security SecOps, or the heart of the security operation, which is the SIM and the security on analytics, everything, we have the strategy in place to help customer evolve their journey with the power of cloud at the center, supporting all of these strategies here. And if industry analysts view or opinion is to be brought in, we definitely are quite proud with the recognition and the customer acknowledgement and the success we have achieved across a lot of these domains. So definitely we have been marked leaders at a lot of places, from the Gartners, the Forrester of the world, and it's really great to be at this stage where we're not just talking about integrated security, but to fight the threats, but it also about the individual solutions also being powerful in their own individual domains through the industry recognition, which is very important for us. I'll move on. I think this is something not to be, I'll not dwell too much about the threat intelligence in general as a concept, but for us, it's very important because as an OEM, first party threat intelligence is what we take a lot of pride on because of our sheer exposure. There are numbers which is mentioned here in the slide. I'll not dwell upon that, but the idea is this entire threat intelligence which we get exposed to daily, and with the industry expertise and in-house expertise, our digital crimes unit, security research organizations, internal SOC, and the kind of exposure we have, we definitely want to ensure with the kind of data we are crunching, every request which is made to the areas we protect, we are able to judge and decide whether it's right or wrong, and take a corrective action, and which is very important for us to have this first party experience, because that's one of the big assets which not many organizations on the planet have it. And you may have recently known that we recently announced $20 billion of cybersecurity investment, which are going to do in the next 5 years in terms of boosting the overall cybersecurity, native offerings and platforms security, which we have recently done. So this is just to call out. Continuing a journey in terms of understanding these thematics in togetherness, because it literally is talking about the entire cybersecurity strategy which we want to play it out. I'll start with the zero trust discussion. From I think Yuri did mention about zero trust, so probably I'm not going to dwell too much upon that, but probably from a thematic perspective, we took a lot and focus on identity, because from the right person or device accessing the application and services and infrastructure, there's one thing which is always be there, which is identity, which is going to challenge the access aspect of the apps and services. So we definitely created a very strong identity centric zero trust vision. And from that perspective, let's put the lay of the land on the left-hand side. There is users coming from their endpoints and trying to access data, apps, infrastructure, and network. That's the heart of the way when we are trying to ensure the overall zero trust concept is applied, and only the right user and the right condition with the, from a risk perspective, assessing all of those things, they are able to access the data, apps, infrastructure, and network. There are solutions which power these, discussions, which is identities powered by Microsoft Azure AD from device and endpoint. The signal comes from Intune, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, and Defender for Endpoint. From a risk perspective, what are we evaluating? We are evaluating static and dynamic risk. Static risk can be, whether device is compliant, external, internal user, manageability aspect, which service are using legacy authentication, are you not malware infected? These are things which can be evaluated because we know these things, and be able to decide on the outcome. Dynamic risk evaluations are places where we don't know, but the situation may be present. Maybe the user credentials are leak in the dark web. Maybe the source is malicious itself. Okay, it's a atypical travel, not aligned with the typical user pattern, which is coming from the UEBA and learning behavior of the user, and scope to the enterprise, login pattern. So there's so many things which can be evaluated as per the dynamic risk evaluation, which encompasses both user and session risk, because we have to put everything on the table to ensure that we are able to understand that the device and the user is the right state to be able to access the right side of the equation. And we can also enforce multi-factor authentication through the variety of means which has been mentioned here. Coming to the right side of the equation, data access through our Azure Information Protection and the new new format of it, which is called Microsoft Information Protection. We're able to ensure the data classification, encryption, rights management is able to ensure right users are able to access the data in the right state. App experience, there is also adaptive access and step-up authentication, which ensures and bases the risk situation. We can enforce cloud app security, which is Microsoft CASB solutions, to create a reduced experience for app access when accessed through web, like read only, do not upload, do not print in a web session, or monitor what is happening in the session if it's coming from a personal device, things like that, or step up the authentication in case the session risk increases. All of these ensure we are able to adapt the zero trust philosophy basis the risk evolution within the in session itself, and our integration with the Azure networking for network segmentations and resource access to the infrastructure, again powered by the authentication platform, which is Azure AD. And also we're able to integrate with third-party solutions from the industry perspective, whether it's VPN integration, whether it's secure WebGate integrations, all these mechanisms which are facilitating network-centric, zero trust access. Our zero trust philosophy centered around Azure AD, INT based, can integrate with this domain to ensure the overall best of the breed authentication. Modern authentication empowers each and every aspect of access mechanism in the enterprise. So that was just a brief of how we are looking at sorry about that, how we are looking at the entire zero trust philosophy in respect to the native, first party, third party, and the industry integrations as well. Moving on, we'll switch gears to the right hand side of the equation, which is defending against modern threats, right? So what are we trying to protect? We're trying to protect just about everything which encompasses infrastructure and day-to-day user experience. And all of these vectors and planes are mentioned here. But how we are looking at all of these things in togetherness, because when an attacker is gets into an infrastructure, they don't care really where they are. They're looking to establish the beachhead, progress, and dominate the enterprise, right? I mean, that is how their progression. So they don't necessarily look at application centric approach. Well, when we as security professional practitioners and security operations look at solutions, we are having that lens of that console, which is for a particular vector, right? So the need of the hour is how do we look at solutions in togetherness, and that's where we want to enforce more integrated security, painting the view of attacker progression and attack kill chain right there from entry point, which is like email and collaboration space, or establishing the beachhead in the infrastructure through an endpoint and server establishment, okay, where the attacks keep on progressing, or compromising the identity at this third stage, because attacker would need an identity compromise to flourish further in the network, or emulate a generic user or a privileged user further in the enterprise. The attack can keep progressing on an on-premise network, leading to a domain compromise itself, which is Active Directory compromise, one of the very hot targets traditionally. Or the attacker can go to attack the cloud infrastructure and app experiences. And all of these layers, and definitely the IoT and the OT infrastructure cannot be forgotten, because it is one of the most important, considering in India is one of the biggest manufacturing hubs. This emphasis on IoT, OT security has been, really important, currently and going forward, because there's a lot of critical infrastructure and manufacturing processes which are dependent on, and cybersecurity has to be there to ensure these things, are sustained in the right manner. At all of these layers, we do have a strategy. We have, Defender for Office 5, endpoint. We have Azure AD identity protection. At the fourth stage, we have Defender for Identity for securing Active Directory network, attack progression. Or in the top 5 layer, we have, our CASB solution or the Azure Defender to secure it against cloud threats. And we have Azure Defender for IoT for ensuring protection for IoT and OT infrastructure. So that is the strategy overall. If you look at from a buildup of how look at strategy, as I discussed in the past, that yes, we do have depth solution, and we can look at an EDR as a depth solution which focuses on a particular vector and goes deep, or you could look at us as an XDR approach as a platform. So Microsoft Defender XDR amalgamates signals from these various solution and sources, so that you have a unified alert incident management and be able to triage security incident. And it can also, XDR can also fire automation across these layers of solutions in an orchestrated manner. And that's the built-in SOAR platform, which it ensures, so that, if it's a, suppose an email compromise, the SOAR platform can look at, okay, possibly there's an identity compromise because the user clicked on the URL, or the user may have reached the fifth stage by after compromised credentials. So maybe the CASB platform is showing certain anomalous signals, or maybe the user may have downloaded the malware on the endpoint. So at the second layer, it may trigger automation investigation. So if you look at how an XDR operates, triggering built-in orchestration, that's a SOAR platform which is built in as part of XDR, Microsoft XDR platform. It is ensuring that the number of incidents can be lowered overall from a security operations. And then we have the SIEM and the SOAR, which is Azure Sentinel, which not only can take signals from the individual solutions, it can take signals from the XDR platform, and it can also merge signals from the variety of third-party on-premise and cloud sources, like any agile SIM you have to put, and bring the context to a more wider ecosystem here. So with that, we just want to put a paint of view that we definitely are there. We see strategy from all corners, whether it's an individual solution or togetherness or the overall security operation. If analyst opinion has to be respected, we definitely are leaders at a lot of these places. This is recognition. So we definitely want to ensure we have the best of the breed solutions, whether you look at togetherness or at individual solutions as well. So that was a brief on the modernized security threats as a strategy. Let me move on to the data governance and compliance, and I'll discuss cloud security in the next. Let me do a time check. I think I have almost like 7 to 10 minutes left. I'll just be quick. So the third strategy is all about data, how we take care of the data, and the data is all over the place, and data is the biggest currency. And if we don't have a proper data strategy, we'll be really challenged. And there are a lot of objectives in terms of securing data, and there are regulations to be catered to as well. And that's the second most important object, that through the regulations we need to comply and ensure we have the best practices. Now, Mike, let me spill the beans on the Microsoft overall data strategy, how we're thinking about the whole information protection governance. We have the 4-pillar strategy around know your data, protect your data, prevent data loss, and govern the data. Powering all of these thematics is our data classification service, which has ability to detect sensitive data, whether it's out of the box classifiers, custom classifiers, or even ML classifiers, which has been a recent entry. We have two key strategies. One is coming from the left-hand side of Microsoft 365 platform and services. Other is coming from the Azure side of the equation, which is the unified data governance platform. These two platforms cater to different type of data thematics. The left hand side more focuses on endpoint, file server experiences, collaboration data stored on collaboration platform like Box, Dropbox, Google Office 5, or app experiences like on the PC. The right side Azure Purview data governance platform focuses a lot on the the structured data sources like databases, data warehouses, or DevOps centric storage, or even the third party open source data systems. And because of these, we have different thematics on basis how the solution plays. So we have the data classification, retention, DLP, data discovery, audit tracking on the left-hand side. And this is part of the MIP thematic. And we do integrate with a lot of third-party solutions in that for a, basis the data type. And Azure Purview focuses on unified data governance. And unified data governance is a bigger step up strategy around the data analytics and security as a whole in togetherness. It supports both data analytics, cataloging, search in, lineage and tracking all of those things. And also it can do sensitive data detection as well at the same time. From a compliance strategy perspective, we have a lot to offer, but I'll just be quick about, painting the whole view of how we're looking at it in togetherness. One is a platform strategy, which comes part of the Microsoft native, whether it's a data availability, discovery, auditing, encryption at rest, data migration. All of these things are built in part of the Microsoft platform itself. This is also part of compliance. And if we look at, data retention and recovery, and access mechanisms, or if you look at, data classification or enhanced MFA experiences towards data access, we have that strategy also in place. That's a buildup of how you look at when you put data, with interest with Microsoft, how we're looking at, all of these things in togetherness. And then if you keep on expanding the view, we have more enhanced, data classification mechanism, increased encryption mechanism, enhanced DLP, data governance and records management. And a lot of these things are more towards the advanced capabilities basis your data storage strategy with Microsoft. And these are all various solutions which keep on building up. But the idea is we see all of these in togetherness as part of the build-up strategy. Or if you're looking at, inside risk management or complying with, and ensuring ethical communication, creating organization communication collaboration boundaries, or even, stepping up further with data privacy management or, legal discovery solution, or trying to assess the compliance and togetherness. If you look at the entire picture, with Microsoft Compliance Solutions, as you take a data strategy with us, we see the entire aspect of data and the objectives and the problem statements from industry which has to be addressed in togetherness. And this is what I want to leave on the table as you look at that, how we look at data, and data is the biggest currency, how we take care of it. And we have sort of thought through everything in togetherness, and this is where the data strategy is. The last thing I would like to touch upon is the hybrid cloud strategy. This is all about how we think through the cloud transformation and a multi-cloud journey, and what are we doing about that. And this is going to be last slide, and thanks for being with me. So as we are migrating, towards the cloud, we are using app experiences. We are, consuming a lot of, Azure. We are consuming a lot of third-party, cloud services, AWS, GCP. There's a lot to be, done about, and how we are doing DevOps and everything, and consuming networking and everything. So there's a lot to be thought about the, entire security. And Yuri did discuss about the overall, Azure Defender strategy as well. And let me spill the beans around that as well in terms of togetherness. So like the first two key strategies around the, taking care of security posture management and cloud workload protection, the strategy encompasses both Microsoft Azure, AWS, and GCP. And as you look at, and these are the various workloads we protect in the first, if you see the room. If you look at the network-centric security, we have thought through the firewall, the app, the web app, security groups, secure access, or front door access, or DDoS protection or DNS security. So these are some of the core services which are part of the core Azure network security. In the bottom is the overall strategy of how we are looking at privilege just-in-time access, or if you look at controlling the entire strategy of anomaly detections, DLP, or app experiences through our CASB platform, which is the cloud app security, and how we are ensuring integrated DevOps through the Azure GitHub and Visual, how the security is built into as part of the overall development ecosystem as well. This is part of the overall strategy, how we're looking at customers' journey towards cloud and cloud security. And this is it. This is what I want to leave you with, as looking at the entire security and togetherness. Thanks for listening to the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prashant. So, folks, I've seen Prashant present a lot of times when I used to work at Microsoft. So, I was really, really peculiar that I want him to be a part of this session. And thanks once again, Prashant. It means a lot for you to come on board and present here. Thanks a lot. So, with that, let me hand it over to Monica, who's the organizer for Youth Ubal. So, Monica, are you there? Monica.
Hello.
Hey, Monica. Yes.
Hi.
Yeah,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Yes, you're good to go.
Perfect. Okay. So am I?
Yep, you're audible. We can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's so pleasant to see everyone here. So I'm Monica Bisht. I'm representing Youth Ubal Foundation here. And I would like to narrate a short story about Youth Ubal Foundation. So this was a small initiative started by a few college-going students back in 2015, and it was just a very small initiative inspired by NSS, that's National Service Scheme. So we all were, including me, we all were a part of NSS, which thoroughly runs in all institutions all over India. And we were involved in various activities such as adopting a nearby village, bringing change there. And with that, we got inspired and we thought, hey, why not do this on regular basis after our college hours? So we used to walk down from our college to the bus stop and then take a bus to our homes. And in the midway, we would see a lot of people sitting beside the road, and with small tents and playing around, and they would have children around them. It's a general roadside scenario you would notice in India and you would see around you. And that is when it struck, why not conduct a survey there and see how many people attend schools, how many people get proper education or are sensitized on various issues around them. And that is when these young college going students, including me, started to get involved with these people. And we started to get involved with them on daily basis. Finally we came upon an idea that we would dedicate our 1 hour, um, you know on every alternative day, and sit with these students, I mean these kids, and try to involve into activities which would get them engaged with us. So we would come upon various activities which would include painting, drawing, or maybe poetry. Sometimes it would be all about team building activities. And that is when we got familiar to them, and we kind of developed their interest towards education. We started to teach them general studies on regular basis. And this became a sensation out there. A lot of people from my college started to join me. A lot of students right after their college time period would join us and engage in these activities. And gradually over the years, we would see not only our college but other students from other college would start joining us, and they started to work with us. We started to conduct various activities all across Delhi. We also adopted more than 5 to 6 slum areas, and we started to work on these slum areas at a very personal level. We started to build that connect with the people living there. And we also started to working with organizations like Goonj and Asmita theater groups, who would extend their help in terms of conducting street plays all across these slum areas, and thereby sensitizing on various social issues. And today it's been more than 4 to 5 years us working on field. We, as we all are aware of the scenarios of pandemic, it has devastatedly affected people around us. And definitely, people who are underprivileged, people who are not familiar with a lot of facilities, these were the people who were getting more affected. And Youth Ubal conducted a lot of surveys, and we also started to research on it during the pandemic. And we saw that, just like we were all aware, laborers or labor class, or people who would have a daily wage job were getting affected mostly. So we started to raise funds. We started to um, get donations in goods kinds and in volunteer terms, and people started to join us during the pandemic itself. We were I mean, I am very proud to announce that we were able to reach out to more than 10,000 people out there living in slum areas, living in rural regions of Uttarakhand. Not only that, we were able to cover states like Bihar, Orissa, Bombay, and Delhi itself. So yeah, so we regularly conducted these drives. We were all a part of this initiative. And a lot of college students, in fact, I mean the young people, the youth of the country, joined us, and they were the ones at the front line. That time we didn't even have vaccination invented. We were still risking, all our volunteers were risking their lives, taking adequate measures, as you can see in the pictures. We were still helping people out there, and we made sure that everybody gets a day's meal, or they get basic amenities like hygiene kits, medical kits, and ration kits. So that was a little initiative we drive thoroughly during the pandemic, and we wish to do the same, and continue to do the same for the rest of the years, and at least till the pandemic ends. So yeah, so Youth Ubal just believes in actively working towards community service in any way possible. Anybody can come up to um, you know come up to a platform wherein they can devote their time helping people. I just know one thing, that being Indians, we have this in our roots, helping people out. I mean, there are so many stories, endless stories, right from the ancient times. We'll see extending help is one of the principal values of our culture. And definitely, uh, I just believe one thing, that we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. So I would encourage everybody out here and out anywhere to do their bit towards the community service. And believe me, by the end of the day, you will feel better. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Monica. It was really inspiring to hear this, your story and what you have done. So I'm pretty sure that with this event, we'll be able to contribute something for the well-being of Youth Ubal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. All right, folks. So we are at the top of the hour here. So I still believe I owe you folks the criteria for our, to win this exciting prizes. So first of all, let me tell you what we have in the house. So we have a Lenovo Tab M10, then an Echo Dot third generation. And if at all you're wondering what do I have in those gift box, that is going to be a gift box full of T-shirts, some wonderful goodies. Okay. So those are three gifts that you get to win at the end of this event. Now, what it takes to win that, right? So the first thing that you need to understand is from now onwards, okay, every single session that you get to go to, every single session, the speaker will be displaying a session code like this. Okay, so please hear me out well. Have any questions, feel free to put it on the chat. Okay, so every single session will have a session code like this, and the speaker, or just in case if the speaker forgets to do it, at least the moderator, or if nobody does it, you guys are open to ask that, hey, what is the code for this session, right? So every single session will be having a code like this. And at the end of the session, right, so you as attendees, you're expected to fill this session on this Microsoft Forms URL. So the moderator will be sharing this URL on the Teams chat. As the session goes on, towards the end of the session, we'll be sharing the Microsoft Forms URL for this. So what you have to do is just put in your name, your email address, and the session code for that respective session. Now, this goes on for all the sessions that you attend. Now, let's say, for instance, you're somebody who's interested on the Microsoft 365 track. You join in from 10:30, you stayed for the entire day attending all the sessions. So guess what? You'll be having 13 codes with you. Okay. Now the same happens with somebody who has been in the Azure track and for the somebody who has been in the third track. Now the criteria here is whomever gets the maximum number of codes gets to win. Okay. Now I don't want you guys to go around saying that, hey, I'll just spend some time here on the M365 track, then I'll spend some time on the Azure track, and finally on the third track, just to make sure that I get more number of codes. That simply doesn't make any sense, and it will simply show up at the result, right? So don't do that. Our core goal of giving this giveaways is just to motivate you, but it shouldn't be in the cause of you losing the session that you're planning to attend. Don't do that. So this is just to keep you motivated, but I'm pretty sure you guys are comfortable. I'll repeat that once again. Every single session from now onwards will be having the session code. The speaker or the moderator will be displaying the session code towards the end or at the beginning of their session, and the moderator will be sharing the forms URL for this, right? So the forms URL will open a page like this. So it's your job to put in your name, email, and the session code. And this goes on for all the sessions that you attend. And at the end, whomever is the winner, whomever gets the maximum number of codes, we will personally reach out to you to collect your address, and we'll make sure that we have the goodie shipped to you. Okay. Now, one final thing, I think we are at the top of the hour here. I need to let you folks move on to the breakout sessions. Okay. In order for you to donate for this NGO, just simply come and click here. It'll take you to the payment gateway, and you can make it supports all kind of payments, be it your UPI, internet banking, credit, debit card. It supports everything. You can do that. And in order to attend the session standpoint, I think we made it as simple as possible. I'm not sure why people are still getting confused. Just simply come here and click on this link. It's as simple as that, right? If you're somebody who's interested in track one, just come. Once you're done, just click on this link. Once you're done with this session, this meeting, this link is dead. That's it. And then you can come back to the agenda and click on this session. This goes on for all the sessions that you want to attend, right? And similarly for track two, it's the same thing that you would do. And for track three, it's the same thing that you would do. Okay. With this, I'm done. If you still have any questions in attending the event, you can just keep putting it on the chat. But for now, I'm gonna end this and it's time to start all our breakout sessions. Thank you so much, folks. It's going to be a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.